Michael. I was with DEA for 25 years. I retired in 21. I spent time domestic and overseas, 2 years in Pakistan and 2.5 years in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is the world's largest producer of heroin and opium in the world. They produce over 3,000 metric tons of opium per year and supply the entire world market. That opium is made from the opium poppy plant. So the opium poppy plant is a very beautiful plant when it's in the field. It has a beautiful flower. They score it, they scrape it, they get the opium off of it, they convert it to morphine, and I'm saying these names on purpose. They turn opium into morphine, and they synthesize it further, and they turn morphine into heroin, and they go into the market. So when you say, let's schedule 7-OH and let's not schedule the plant material, that's the same thing as stating, let's legalize taking the opium poppy plant and leaf, grinding it up, and send it into containers into the United States and put it in your tea. It's the exact same thing as stating, let's take the coca leaf in Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru that generates thousands of metric tons of cocaine per year, and allowing that to come to the United States, grinding it up, and placing it in your tea. Both of those plants are scheduled. They are not allowed in the United States, and I don't believe that the kratom leaf should be allowed in the United States. And we've heard a lot about addiction and the difference between 7-OH and the kratom leaf. I'm going to tell you, coming directly from the horse's mouth. So kratom is grown primarily in Indonesia, particularly in the western province on the western side of Borneo. It employs over 200,000 farmers. It's a major product for the GDP of Indonesia, particularly in Borneo. So the country of Indonesia has allowed and encouraged the exportation of the kratom, ground up kratom leaf. However, the Ministry of Health for Indonesia highly discourages their population to use those products. And if they were to show up on the streets of Jakarta, the government would be all over whoever distributed that in the capital city of Jakarta. They stopped short of placing the kratom products on their scheduled drugs lists because they're in a quagmire. If they were to schedule kratom products in Indonesia, but yet export hundreds of metric tons of kratom to the United States and European countries, they would have to answer to the UN. So why are you peddling all this stuff out to our countries and you haven't criminalized it in your own country? So they're in a quagmire there, and they've chosen capitalism over the safety of the rest of the world, where they're telling their own populace not to use it. I'm going to give you a quote. This person reached out to me. Just because I'm retired doesn't know how to, the undercover side of me doesn't stop. I've done this for years. So this is a kratom supplier in Indonesia, and he offered me a 40-foot shipping container that contains 27 metric tons of kratom for $5.50 per kilogram. He goes on to state, and this is a quote from the Indonesian supplier, and if you listen to nothing else today, decide for yourself what the suppliers in Indonesia themselves say the plant material, that's it, ground up plant material, will do for you. And this is the quote. It works on the opiate receptors found in our brain as well as the periphery to produce stimulation while evoking intense responses. It works in a similar manner to opiates in making one high while inducing euphoria as well as mood enhancement. The stimulation effects of this strain also work in the promotion of motivation for one to keep working or studying as well as being awake. So that's a quote from the supplier himself, starting from patrol all the way to, detective and, 25 years with the DEA. And I've seen the evolution of this gray market drugs come and go from convenience and gas stations. And I want to remind you guys of what happened. In the late 80s and 90s, ephedrine came on the market in yellow jacket pills at the gas station. Ephedrine is the precursor to methamphetamine. It was ultimately scheduled and it disappeared from gas stations. 2008 through 2010, Spice, synthetic cathinones. They took synthetic cathinones and sprayed on plant material and was sold in gas stations. 1 year later, bath salts came on the market. Bath salts hit Florida hard, causing erratic behavior, deaths, severe spikes in emergency room visits. The U.S. government's ultimately scheduled that. Kratom then comes on the market 2010, but 2014 it really hit good in the convenience store market. It's been around causing problems. Now, last year, 7-OH is coming along. Even before that, in the late 80s, crack pipes and meth pipes were available at gas stations. They're little 4-inch glass cylinders with a little plastic rose inside of them. They're brought in from China, and they're used to smoke crack and to smoke meth. They're still available in gas stations. I would say, given the history of everything that's gone on with gas stations and what we're hearing, I would highly encourage everybody to not be on the wrong side of history on this. As you heard from the Utah State Senator, he felt like he was on the wrong side of history, and so did his colleagues. So, as you can see, I've made up my mind. I've listened to the science. I've heard the stories of people who are addicted, and I've received information directly from the suppliers in Indonesia. So, it's my job to speak the truth and answer questions if anybody has. I appreciate your time today.